Hi, everybody. Welcome to Woman Up. My name's Leah. I'm joined, as usual, by the lovely Sue Clark. Hi,
Hi,
Sue.
Leah, how are you?
I'm okay.
It's been a
Um,
while, but we're back.
it has been a while. Life gets in the way especially when
Got
you've got toddlers. But
two
anyway,
kids under two, or one's just turned two, hasn't she?
one's just turned two, and one's 6 months old.
Wow.
So my mental breakdown is imminent. Not really. I've already had it. Today we're joined again by one of the amazing women that we've met while fighting this shit that is gender ideology. It's Emma.
Hi,
Hi,
Emma.
hi, Sue. Hi, Leah. Thank you so much for having me back.
Thank you for coming back.
I feel like one of the popular kids hanging out with you.
Emma, you're such a staunch
Mm,
advocate. It's honestly been so much of a pleasure to meet you
yeah,
for all of this. It's
yeah,
one of the silver linings about it, isn't it? That
yeah.
you that you
Thanks to Kelly J. Keane.
Yeah,
we came together
how we all
organising that,
met.
didn't we?
Yeah, yeah. Because
But
you north of Queensland.
Emma's interested in Emma's uh I don't know if it's your main concern or maybe it is how disabled women are treated, how this craziness that is gender ideology is being pushed through Australian government, how that just has completely dangerous and disastrous implications
Mm,
for
It,
disabled women's right in just to live a life of safety and dignity.
yeah,
yes, it's not my main concern because I think my main concern is being affronted by the denial of reality and biology,
Mm,
and then what's happening to girls,
mm.
um, and then disability, because we're adult. Well, I'm an adult with a disability. Um,
Mm.
But yeah, that's my main concern for the topic of today.
yeah. And it just goes to show that no matter what the level of vulnerability is, government doesn't care. They'll always pander to the fetishism of men. So you're second class citizens. We're all second class citizens being female. But then when you get to the more vulnerable category of being disabled,
Mm.
it's shocking.
And it's
Yeah.
not like they were doing heaps to begin before this to help
Mm.
disabled people. It's so let's talk about what you've been up to, Emma. You went to meet with the most inept women's minister for women that maybe there has ever existed, Shannon Fentiman.
Let's be inclusive. Anyone that identifies as a woman is a woman. And as the Minister for Women, I take a really inclusive approach. And we want to govern for all Queenslanders, but all people who identify as a woman are part of our policies and strategies to advance gender equality, because gender equality is inclusive. You know, it's not one group advancing at the expense of another. Let's be inclusive and bring everyone with us.
Mm.
What
Yes.
led you to go in to see Shaz?
Well, I had never heard of community cabinet before. Had you?
What's that?
Community cabinet. It's when
No.
they travel to different regions and you're allowed to book in and meet with a minister. And um, when they were in Townsville and I knew she would be there, I thought I'd just jump at the opportunity to meet her because, yeah, I had a lot to say. And I wanted to really try and get her attention um, by bringing disability into it, because I think that she is probably quite sick and tired of us evil turfs that were transphobic. And whenever she hears that argument come up, she shuts down. And I wanted to sort of present almost like a Trojan horse. This is what women with disabilities are going through, and this is how it's compounded by gender ideology. That was my plan.
Did
Mm.
she know what you were going to talk to her about?
Yes, you go onto an online form and it's booked in through, I think it's called Try It, and you book in and you fill out your name, address, your details, and you have to be an Australian citizen. Then you go and choose the minister you want to meet with. Then you have a drop-down box to select with what topics they'll talk about. And if it's, you choose one of them, and then underneath you can write details, or they ask you to write details about what it is that you want to talk about. So they're ready.
So there's a chance that she could have said she's not interested.
Yes, and I knew that if I had come in talking about women's rights or children's rights or gender affirming care, immediately it would have been a no. So I thought I'd try that tact using disability.
Mm.
Yeah.
That was a smart move.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable. You go into, it was at the local Pimlico High School, police everywhere. So there would be no chance to have any kind of action. They would have moved you on very quickly. And it was in a sports gymnasium that was air conditioned. So you have rows and columns of tables, and the ministers are sitting at each one, and it's like a parent-teacher interview. You go in, you have 15 minutes, and then you get ushered on.
That sounds like a speed dating.
Yeah, it's like speed dating, yeah.
It's interesting that there are a lot of police there.
Well, I think some of them were there as that they were talking on behalf of the police. So like when we saw them sitting at tables at time to time, but they had police at the front. You had to show ID or get your name checked off to be let in. So it was quite controlled. I'm
amazed that the police didn't drag you off.
I was undercover. Yeah. By the time I left, though, my cover had been blown. So
yeah,
they ushered me right out the door.
And you know what? They are now watching you. Your name has now been marked as a troublemaker.
Well, I thought it would be quite easy for Shannon's staffers to look up on Twitter.
And they would have, because they did that with me when I met with her. They do a background check.
Yeah.
They tried to stop me from meeting with her being a constituent, but I'm like you, Emma, I just didn't give up.
Yeah, that's always a risk when your name's out there as well, isn't it? That they're going to look you up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get to sit down with her.
Yes.
And tell us how it went.
Well, I thought it best to acknowledge the good work that she's done and tell her that I appreciate her hard work, because I wanted to really have a positive experience with her. And I started by telling her some stories or anecdotes about my personal experience. So I'll just divert for a second and explain to everyone that I have a disability that's low vision, so I'm not completely blind, but I am technically legally blind because of how little I can do with what vision I have got. And however, I don't get NDIS because, number one, I'm quite capable, and I use technology a lot thanks to the guide dogs. And secondly, I've got a husband who is really supportive and has stayed with me, and will cook dinner, and he will, tell me, oh, that's burning, or that's, that needs turning over, and he'll adjust the temperature settings on the oven and things that I can't see. And we just keep working together to get stuff done. So I'm really quite fortunate. I think most women who have a disability are left by their husbands, and they are on their own, and they don't have any support. So I just wanted to put that out. And most women aren't, I suppose, as capable as I am with using technology. And so I really feel like I need to speak out on their behalf. I wanted to talk about it because I want to help those women who can't speak up, because they've got so much more to lose than I do. I mean, I don't get the NDIS. So I'm not going to get kicked off or lose a support worker because I don't get them now. Does that make sense?
So, can you just explain what NDIS is?
The National Disability Scheme.
Insurance scheme, isn't it?
Insurance scheme, yes. And so if I have had them interview me, and I've had reports written up, and on paper, I'm terrible. I really need a lot of support. But when they interview me and they see me in action, I'm quite capable. So I don't actually qualify, even though my disability is quite severe. I can't do anything on my own, basically. That said, another woman who is living on her own with no family, she would be incapacitated completely and totally reliant on a support worker if she had my level of vision. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So it sort of depends on your situation. So I'm a very lucky woman. Most women, don't have a good husband that will stand by them as well. So I think it's something like 80% of women, once they become disabled, they're alone.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's awful, isn't it?
I wonder what the statistics are when men.
Women stay with men and care for them until they die.
Yeah, that's what I thought it would be.
Yeah. But a woman's job, if she's no longer functional in that job, then she's not worthy. Cast aside.
That is so depressing.
It is.
It is. So they really are the most marginalised and vulnerable group of women in society. And I'm that close to being one of them. That's what's scary. And that's what I wanted Shannon to understand as well. So I went into the interview or the meeting, and I started by telling her a story about when I was travelling to my doctor's appointments in Brisbane by plane. And we got into I think I've told you girls this before too, but get into the aisle when you're getting off the plane, and everyone's standing up, but you're not moving yet. And there was a man in front of me, and I knew he was a man. I could smell him. His elbows were that big, right? And he reached up, and his elbows that close to my face, and he just pulls his luggage down with so much ease. There's a man in front of me. 100% I was sure he's a man. My son kicked me like he was getting out of the seat. There's three of us in a row getting out of the seat. And I bumped into him and I said, "I'm sorry, sir." And he was angry. He was mad at me. He went right off. And then everything's quiet on the plane, just suddenly quiet. And there's Sandro saying, she can't see you. She can't see you. And I said, "What's going on?" He said, "I will tell you when we get off the plane." And so we got off, we walked off the plane, and we, got to like a private space where he could tell me what happened. And he said that man was dressed up as a woman. Yeah. And he was mad at me. And I told Shannon that story. And she said, "Well, you couldn't see him," which I thought was very good for her to acknowledge. I said, "Yes."
So she said him as well.
Yes. He can't see you. And I don't know if that was just because I told the story just using him all the way through, because I can correctly identify by the way someone walks, whether they're male or female, or the shape or the outline of their body.
Yeah, but from Shannon's perspective, and she goes on and on about it, she should believe after that story that is a woman, and she should have said to you, "But you couldn't see her."
Well, that's right.
Because that is what Shannon believes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes.
It just shows you that they don't believe this shit.
Yeah.
So when he got angry, did your husband say exactly?
She can't see. She can't see. She can't see you.
He was getting worked up, this man.
Yeah, he was getting worked up. I can't remember.
So I wonder what he would have done if he didn't know that you couldn't see him.
Yeah. And then I explained to Shazza.
Yeah, we call her Shazza. I like that. It's a good Aussie name. Thanks, Leah.
She should. That it was, what was I going to say? Explain to Shazza that not just me, but person with autism, someone who has an intellectual disability, someone with dementia is not going to be able to identify or validate or affirm somebody's gender identity. And when I said that to her, I think she started to maybe start to realise I was a TERF. but that I said there's a really toxic environment at the moment where people who are trans identified males, or I tried to not use the TERF terminology, and I said people who are men who think they're women, basically feel righteous anger if they don't get respect that they think they deserve from women. And they just abuse and yell and shout, and online and in person. And they don't take into account that they're not going to be affirmed by everyone who meets them.
Mm.
And she agreed that that's unfortunate, and that's true, that they should be aware that not everyone can validate them. A small child shouldn't be expected to validate an adult man who thinks he's a woman. If you think about kids who are in preschool who are non-binary, of course the kids are going to say, oh, you're a boy or a girl, and then not get it when you say I'm non-binary. They're children, and we've got an inbuilt, innate instinctual ability to tell male and female, because that's how our biology works.
And that's another reason why they're pushing this in childcare centres and in primary school, is to knock that out of them, the truth.
It won't work.
I hope it doesn't.
I'm scared. It will make the kids who are scared to tell the truth.
Yeah.
So that's how I started the meeting, and then I moved on to talking about how people or who have a disability select a support worker. Do you want me to talk about that?
Yeah.
So under the NDIS, you can either, if you're, quite an experienced, competent person, otherwise, for example, a person who was born blind or has had low vision for a very long time, they can maybe make their own support plan and hire their own employees to come and be the support workers. That's great. Or you get someone else to do it for you, which is what you get most of the time for most people with a disability, because they can't do it themselves. So Guide Dogs Queensland would be the organisation that I would get if I had support workers. And then you can choose, if you have a support worker provider, such as Guide Dogs, you go online or you call them and you say, I need a support worker. But did you know you can only choose by gender identity, not by sex? And this is something that is a great cause for concern for people who get intimate care, or, just want to go out and buy condoms and lube or something like that. You want to be able to select a support worker who is the same sex as you, and that option has been taken away. And that's what I spoke to Shannon about next, is that we no longer have a choice. So there was a woman called Leah Hazel last year who actually wrote to Australian Human Rights Commission, and they wrote her back a letter, and you've got the link, I've sent it to you, saying that you can legally discriminate against a person on the basis of their sex for household duties. That's completely legal. So if you have your own NDIS and you're hiring your own support workers, you can say, I want a person of a certain sex, because it's a duty inside the home. That's fine. But it is illegal to select on the basis of gender identity, or to deny them or discriminate on the basis of gender identity. So what that in effect means is that if they advertise for a female and a male person comes and you say, I don't want a male person, and they have a gender identity, they can claim that is discrimination. So it in effect destroys the choice of being able to choose by sex.
But this overrides that.
It overrides it, yes. So if it's a normal, well, I shouldn't say normal, a heterosexual cis man, and he's come to your house and you're a woman, you could say, no, I'm actually looking for a woman to help me bathe. That would be legal. But if that man got dressed in a dress and makeup and then came and said, and you said, no, I just want a female because I want them to help me bathe, then it would be discrimination. So what's happened is for Guide Dogs Australia, I know that you can only choose by gender. So if I haven't seen it myself because I can't see. Also, I don't get NDIS. But if you were to ask, it says choose your gender, and it's man or woman. And if they say they're a trans woman, then they're in the woman category.
I wonder what sort of safety checks are done on men that say they're women. Do they look into their background to see if there's been, like, are there any safety checks?
Yeah, they have to have the disability card or the blue card. Well,
Yeah,
I think you get a one card that's that covers working with children and working with people with disability, which means you've had a police check.
But even still, even if they are deemed safe, you shouldn't be forced into doing something that morally you don't sit well with. It's just, it doesn't matter about the comfort of the person with the disability. It's about the comfort of the man in his delusion that he's a woman. And we all know the AGPs, and most of them are AGPs, autogynephiles, and it's a sexual fetish. So
yeah, there was always like 20 years ago or whatever, the local transsexual, and you'd be, obviously rightfully repelled by this person, this man, because it's it just goes against your instincts, doesn't it?
And it's like that Victorian ad, with the woman in the lift. And she gets out. It's all about the man's comfort, not about the woman.
And it's more intimate, that you should have the right to choose who touches your naked body.
Yeah.
You should have that right.
But all governments say is, okay, all you females, just drop your instinct.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. It's just insane. But when people are so vulnerable with a disability and governments just don't care, it's pretty astounding, isn't it?
There's something so awful and just really, like I say, it's just repellent of a man who has like fake tits and the women's clothes, and it's just so off-putting. It makes everything in your body go up, like stand up.
And Angie Jones put up a post on X because there's a worldwide shortage of HRT because are taking it. And it's something like 0.25 to 1 point something that a woman needs for her HRT. And a man needs to take like 3 or 4 times more than that. And you think, so these women are going without and I bet you anything they prioritise the men when they get it.
Of course they do, because the men will use the suicide.
Yeah.
So this is like life-saving care, because
But they
if you
say
don't give it to him, he'll kill himself.
Feminising hormones, it does nothing. It does nothing. You can still see they're a creepy-looking man, and the creepiness is there's something wrong with them.
Yeah. And it makes them like aggressive, and there is a thing called irritable male syndrome, and that's because they have too much estrogen.
A lot of them are so aggressive, aren't they?
Yeah.
I thought it was just the narcissistic rage from people not giving them what they want.
Well, I think that is like the base, and then they're adding on top of that.
Yeah.
The hormones.
Yeah.
And
It's just not the kind of people you want anywhere around you, and especially not in a female-only space.
and with the disabled, and you know, what are women supposed to do if they say, no, I don't want this man? So then they can be up on charges under hate speech laws for defamation.
That's exactly right.
So that
what I actually told Shannon Fentiman is a friend of mine who has a plan where she says, well, she can see, she's in a wheelchair. She says, oh, I've already had a shower today. My friend was over and we did this, and that, a shower, and then smile, you know. Why are these women who are, you know, alone, you know, their adult children have left and they can't even be honest and say, no, I just don't want you to shower me. They have to come up with a lie to not offend so they don't become, you know, charged with hate speech.
yeah.
Craziness, absolutely fucking insane.
And then she, of course, doesn't get clean. So she has to wait till the next day, or she has to try and do it herself. So she misses out on a service. How freaking evil is that? How much does that prioritise the man? Not only is he so important that you have to validate him, but that's even more important than her having a shower.
Yeah. And maintaining her dignity.
And maintaining her dignity, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't say no. You can't say no. And maybe they could. Maybe they could. Maybe this trans person would go, I understand, and walk away. But maybe they won't. And they've got everything to lose. Because they're maybe in public housing or they're renting. They don't have a lot of money because they're only on disability. And they're relying on this service provider to give them support workers. They can't upset the apple cart.
Yeah.
And they're really stuffed.
It's a bit of a cash cow for these men also, because, you know, if you go through the Queensland Human Rights Commission and look at the complaints made, and this is before the hate speech laws came in, so, but they'd have, like shopping centres, if they told men they had to get out of the toilets, and then a complaint would be lodged, and the shopping centre had to pay a certain amount as a fine, but also had to compensate the person that was offended. Yeah. So something like 3,000, 6,000. So
there's no way a woman who is on disability and writes her own contracts, or, you know, is relying on a service provider, is going to have a spare, you know, $5,000 to pay out a man that she's offended.
Yeah, and even if she had saved up $500 for an emergency, have to make some sort of restitution to this man because you didn't affirm him. It's a cash cow for them as well.
It is, and it's so completely unfair.
Yeah, it really is. So it's just insane.
Yeah. So that's what I talked to her about. So Shannon, at that point, because this was only a 15-minute interview, so about 7 minutes in, and then she was like, oh, okay, well, this is an NDIS issue. And then she just tried to handball it
to the federal government.
It's also no problem.
Yeah, that's what they do. If it's a state thing, they'll go, oh, not my problem, it's federal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The girl says, oh, no, this is sex self-ID. This is because legally he's a man, he's a woman, because he is. Because he spent, what, $85 and changed his birth certificate. Shannon, that's why.
But the thing is, though, you can't ask to see the birth certificate.
No, you have to take their word for it.
Yeah. So that means any man can say he's a woman, because it would be transphobic to ask for the birth certificate. You can bet most men will not get their birth certificate changed. They don't need to.
Yeah. And also I wanted to say that disability or blue card that they have that says that being police checked, you know, that man that worked in New South Wales and Queensland childcare centres and was raping children all the way along, he had that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you have no criminal history at the point where you start, you've got the card and it gets renewed. And if you don't get caught,
it's not like every every paedophile out there has been caught.
Yeah.
Not that are being paedophiles without a criminal record.
Mm.
You know, and it's not like a man who's pretending to be a woman would ever lie about anything.
Mhm.
Like how have this cohort of men suddenly existed that are just so honest, would never do anything wrong?
So perfect.
They must be, yeah, exactly, so perfect. So it's like the
We could,
sacred image of this religion.
yeah, if we transed every man, we could eliminate violence against women.
Oh, Sue's disappeared.
Come back, Sue.
Oh, she's back. Where'd you go, Sue?
You two froze. Yeah, then it just knocked me out.
Oh, maybe they're listening to us.
Yeah, I was just saying if we transitioned every man, there would be no more violence against women.
That's what they say. Yeah, because if you utter the magic words, I'm a woman, automatically male pattern violence goes.
Yeah.
We should all make them go down. Oh, they don't need to go anywhere. They can just go online onto the Queensland website and change their sex marker on the birth certificate. Boom, instant safety for all women.
Yeah.
You won't
The
even need
magic.
a police force anymore.
Ah,
Yeah. God. And so how
insane.
did it end?
So but when you were talking about this, what did you see her her demeanor change, or did her eyes glaze over?
Yeah, it was at one point where I said, you know, because I was being quite frank then, and I said, no one actually believes that people are changing sex, you know. I'm happy to validate and affirm anyone, but I just can't because I can't see them. But no one actually believes they've changed sex, do they? And I actually said that. And I didn't get the reaction. I didn't see the reaction, but Gail says that it was about at that point that they were no longer thinking that I was a lovely, innocent, disabled woman. Yeah, the raging turf had escaped and the mask was gone. And
He's pressing the panic button.
get me out of here. I'm talking to a turf. And yeah, so that was that's really what we talked about. What was the last thing? The last question was that, oh yes, I don't want to put anyone in the poo here, so I won't mention names or anything like that. But I was told by somebody who was integral in my care as a disabled woman that I should just not use public facilities anymore because trans people have a right to use them. And if I don't feel safe, that's
your problem.
Stop using them. Yeah.
I love that one. I got that one from an old friend as well, who said, Leah, trans women have more of a right to use those spaces than cis women, because trans women are more vulnerable.
It's just to actually believe that you've got to be a fucking idiot because they're men.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
There's something going on, isn't there?
So
they are at risk of greater violence because men are at risk of greater violence by men.
you know, but if it was a man that had gender dysphoria as a very young child,
Yeah.
they've been using, they're so rare though, they're so rare. So
Yeah.
they went through all the years of therapy, and it's not because they were, they had a disability, that was a disability because it was in the DSM-5 or whatever, but they went through therapy.
Yes, many years of therapy.
Yeah, and they did everything, and we weren't on the lookout for men.
Yeah.
At all, but if you saw one, you would know, but you just didn't feel threatened by them because you knew they had all that. But I mean, they were just so rare. Now we've got this massive influx of men and they're all hypersexualized. Their stereotype is all hypersexualized and inappropriate. And we're not
Yeah, but
meant
surely the ones that existed back in the day, like you're saying though, they were still like pervy men.
They were AGPs, but they
Yeah.
couldn't get away with being grossly over sexualized because it would be, we would spot them and say that's gross. If you think back to the 80s and 90s when I was young, I had a teacher who was trans at Rosebud State High School in Victoria, and he wore the dowdiest clothes because I'm sure if he had worn anything remotely sexual, he would have been kicked out of that school so fast. And every boy in the school was like having a go at him, and he got no control over any class because every boy would laugh at him all through the lesson. And I felt sorry for him. And I was,
He's wearing dowdy clothes though, but he's probably still got like women's knickers and a bra on.
So do you think that when they're children, that's where they get their gender dysphoria from, because they're trying on their mother's or their sister's clothing?
I don't think. I think.
erection, it's sexual arousal.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't. I know little boys when they're growing up, they wear their mother's shoes.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
try.
but if you're being told don't do that, it's wrong because you've got parents back in the day who just didn't, and who they saw a boy in a dress and they thought, oh my God, no. If you're being told no, don't do this, a kid's going to want to do it even more, and they're going to be doing it in secret. And I think that's where it comes from.
Okay, I see what you mean.
But
yeah.
I don't think that the majority of the transvestites that you see today, I think it comes with porn.
Yeah,
Porn.
exactly, and particularly sissy porn.
Yes.
So yeah.
Myself, but my son has worn my shoes, and he's also gone in to my makeup, and it's old makeup, so I don't care. And he's come in and he's got it all around his eyes and stuff. And I just think it's funny.
Yeah, it's like just let them, and they don't. Yeah, it's not that they want to become women. Well, look at singers back in the 80s and 90s. A lot of males played with that, but they weren't claiming they were women.
Yeah.
And they weren't trying to get into women's spaces.
Yeah, it's very much a sexual fetish.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
So Shannon Fentiman, wish you well when the interview.
Thank
you and goodbye.
She did wish me well. She did say that trans women experience the most violence.
It's a load of bullshit.
Yeah, which is
why.
So when she said that to you?
Yeah, because they're men. Because they're men. And if you think about it, the reason why women don't get in as many fights as men is because we don't fight people. And if you're going to walk around with an aggro and be yelling at, disabled women on planes, then you're going to get in fights. You're the type of person who's going to sit at a bar and have a fight.
Yeah, the way she's saying, trans women experience more violence is almost like implying from women.
Yeah.
So where is all this violence?
It's not in the news. I haven't seen anyone convicted.
Because if a man identifying as a woman was beaten up or abused, it would be in the headlines.
Yeah. So
it's utter bullshit, because we all know the media likes to portray the poor trans identifying male.
Yeah.
So it's bullshit.
It is.
A blatant lie.
Yeah, and it hasn't, I haven't read anything about any statistics of increase of violence.
And if there was a trans person that was killed, oh my God, it would be all over the news. But all we see is women being killed.
There's been one trans person killed in Australia for 40 years. Wasn't that the case? Double check me on that. But I had a Hobbit day. They were looking so hard to see if they could find an example of stopping violence against trans women, because, trans identified females don't exist because they're women. So they were looking and found something from the 80s.
Yeah. because it's all a lie. They can't prove it.
And Shannon's point was that, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. And that's what frightens me, is because they're quite happy to just let it play out and see how many women with disabilities stand up for themselves and are willing to go to court. Because they're not going to. They're just going to get less and less care.
Yeah, and they won't be a statistic because you won't hear about it. So just because you don't hear about it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah.
You have to use your brain. These are vulnerable women with a disability. These are men that are so desperate to be affirmed. They're not affirmed, they're going to be violent. It's just insane.
Yeah.
It's for vulnerable trans-identifying men.
Yeah, who have the money to get breast implants and who have the money to buy makeup and fancy clothes, which people with disabilities don't.
Yeah.
What about now? What about how they get like 6 weeks off of work or whatever to transition?
Yes. And it's paid for. And ridiculous. And then if you juxtapose that, there's a big word for a Saturday morning. Juxtapose that with prostitution. Recently, Bill Shorten said that they're no longer going to allow people to get prostitutes using funds for the NDIS.
Yeah.
So that was covered.
It was covered. You could
covered.
A man that wanted a route and you couldn't get one, you could go off and, plug into your NDIS and get a support worker to get you a prostitute.
Yeah, and that was happening. And Bill Shorten said it's not going to continue. And then they came out, the woke people going, but it's sex therapy. They need this sex therapy. It's not friggin' sex therapy.
Do
they
women need
prostitute?
It's not. It's having a route.
Yeah.
It's driving. The support worker picks them up, drives them to a brothel, waits out front, and then they go into the brothel. The brothel does their thing. He comes back out, and the support worker drives them home. That's like, how expensive is that?
And the taxpayer's paying for it.
Yes. And how many women are using it? Because it is accessible to women, and I have on good authority one woman that we know of who has accessed it and gone and got a male prostitute, but it wasn't, I don't know the details anyway. But how many women versus men? And how is that? That's just a service for men.
Yeah.
Because women don't go out and want to have sex with random people they don't know.
No.
Yeah.
No. That's a major difference between men and women.
Especially if they're disabled, they're self-conscious. They're sad. They're not going to be thinking, I'm going to get gussied up in my favourite rags and, with my walking frame and have sex. Like, that's not a thing women do.
Yeah, so like if a man wants to do that, it's disgusting, but, use your own money.
Mm-hmm.
Don't use ours.
That's exactly right.
I'm still really shocked that you have brothels in this country. We don't have them back home. Like, I don't think so anyway.
Yeah, they're legal brothels.
Mm.
And then there's illegal brothels in this country too.
Mm. Yeah, like when you're going down a busy road and you've got a garage and you've got a place selling car wheels and then you've got a massage.
Yes.
Another garage.
In the industrial estate, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so while you're having sex, you can listen to planes going over.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was in Townsville mode then, because what you just described is literally Australian Made, which is the brothel in Townsville in the industrial estate of Garbutt.
It's called Australian Made.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So you're still talking to Shannon, and she says trans women are the most vulnerable, blah 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 blah. And then what happened?
Well, I said, actually, I did something really smart at the very beginning. I said to her, I think you'll agree the most marginalised people in society are disabled women, and she agreed. And then when we got to the end, I said to her, but women with disabilities are the most marginalised group of women. We don't even have the choice to complain and just speak up, and no one's going to listen. And that fell on deaf ears. So
She didn't respond? She didn't respond to that?
Well, she said something about she's going to make sure she gets back to me about the NDIS and how, you can only get support workers of a certain gender rather than by sex. And that,
Also, she didn't know that.
Well, she didn't seem to know that.
Wouldn't you think these are the types of things that when you are introducing the bill to Parliament that you would have looked at, the vulnerable section of society and how certain women...
No, she didn't look into it, I'm sure. And if she did, she'd be evil if she said, this is fine to go ahead. And I still think it didn't get into her mind when I was talking to her, because although I couldn't see her, I have like 10 plus years of teaching. I'm pretty sure my story didn't quite enter her head when I said women cannot, even choose who gives them intimate care and touches their body. And if they speak out, they're afraid of repercussions because of hate speech. I don't think that got into her head, that not only are they the most vulnerable, they can't even say, I'm scared, I don't want to do this, can somebody help me?
Yeah.
Because they're afraid, because everyone who's helping them is the enemy that they rely on to get food and water and to get, a drive to the shops. So it's terrifying for these women. They're going to be laying there. They're going to be sitting there and they know they've soiled themselves and they're going to go, oh, no, I don't need to have, help, because they can't say no. Like, can you find me a woman to wipe my bum? That's disgusting. Yeah. It makes me really fucking mad. Yeah.
It's just really opened the door so much for predatory men. And they understand that we're not saying that every man who identifies as a woman is going to be predatory towards women. All they want from women is the affirmation to get...
every man who enters a woman's space is.
Yeah, well,
predatory.
yes, yeah, you're right. Every man that does. But are there trans-identifying males that pretend they're women? Would they still go into the women's toilets? Would they all do that?
Yeah.
Well, people say there are some trans people who aren't like this. They just want to live their lives. They wouldn't impose themselves on women, but I don't.
They are imposing themselves. Oh, yeah, the ones that have been around for years.
I don't believe that. I think they all would use a woman's space. Which trans-identifying male would use a men's space? Just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So every man that...
Isn't it?
But not only that, they don't even have to say that they're living as a woman, because they don't need to change anything about themselves.
Yeah.
Any predatory male can just walk into a women's only space and you look at them, they go, I'm a woman.
Yeah, and you can't question it.
No, they don't need to change anything about themselves. It's like that. Is it in Spain or Italy in the Defence Forces where that man has now changed his birth marker to say he's female, but has no intention of changing the way he looks, changing his name, changing anything about himself? All he's done is change his birth marker.
What I like from these blokes pretending to be women is, hey, cis women, we don't owe you femininity.
They also say that we don't own femininity.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't own periods.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
We do, actually.
I'm counting down the menopause. We can have the periods.
Oh, God, I know. If only if they would experience one period. There's no way they'd want another one.
But the way they film themselves when they say they've got a period and this pain, I can't. It's so...
I'm in so much pain I can barely speak.
Yeah. done is shove frozen tomato paste up their backside.
Debilitating.
Oh,
it's so insane.
you can't tell me politicians if it's everywhere, especially on X, the video footage of these men. You can't tell me these politicians don't know what's going on. How could they not know? They're so overt about it on social media.
So Sharon would have had
Sharon,
she would have had a lot of women like yourself coming to talk to her about this kind of thing. Why is she not thinking to herself, okay, they might have a point?
but I don't think she has seen it because she refuses to meet with women. Even Emma said it was about a disability. So if Emma had
okay, but she's blocked a lot of women.
Yes.
And she must be reading what these women are saying before she presses the block button.
Yeah, but I don't think she would be on her social media. She'd have someone to.
So you think that she's totally blinkered to what women are saying? She
No.
has no idea what
I'm sure whoever looks after her social media actually tell her what's going on. You know, if they're, because that's what they do, is they keep statistics on certain issues and how many people have complained. But, you know, it took me, I think, 4 months to get in to see her because she's my local MP. But it was basically dragging and screaming. You know, I just wouldn't give up.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so.
Did she say that you had a mental illness?
She didn't say it in so many words, but implied it.
Yeah. Les Walker implied that I, you know, maybe needed to let it go and that it wasn't that important and I needed to relax. He's sort of saying I was a hysterical woman.
Yeah.
A Queensland Labor MP has been fined and banned from Townsville's nightclub precinct for his involvement in a fight. Les Walker got into a fight at the Mad Cow Tavern during birthday celebrations last Saturday. Mr. Walker has received a fine of $800 for the incident.
They would have to know that the majority of the population are not for it. But, yeah, she wouldn't meet with any women's groups at all. During the consultation period. It was only she'd meet with the trans lobby and, you know, and Emily, of course, she had to meet with Emily, poor darling Emily. God.
Yeah.
Emily. I thought when that came out, the Emily thing, Emily Gate, I was like, whoever's done that is a massive, it must be a turf.
I've heard him on social media too, so he's just like, you know, your typical woman-hating autogynephile.
Yeah.
So was that when your meeting and then your meeting was over, Emma? Yeah,
pretty much. So I did at some point, I remember, because you know it's all a bit of a blur, everything you get out, but she did say something. Oh, I said something about autogynephilia and it was dismissed. And I said, you know, I can't see very much, but I did look at Pornhub. And I mentioned, and I laughed because there was a man beside her. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, I was looking at Pornhub. Oh my God. Anyway, there's thousands of videos of men masturbating in the women's toilets. And that's nowhere.
And what did she say to that?
Nothing at all. But it was laughter. Like the people around her were laughing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because she had a young staff, like head of staff with her as a young woman, a young man there, and I was playing the room. I'm 100% sure that she's been told this is what we're doing, this is our agenda for our dictatorship of supreme rule, and I'm going to just ignore any opposition. Don't listen to them because I'll get you off course, and that's what she's done. She's just ignored all women.
But I know that any issues she doesn't want to talk about, she will block the public. That's just magically what she does. blocks emails, blocks social media, blocks telephone calls. It seems to be a Labor stock standard response now, because you see it all the time when someone tries to contact their local Labor MP. Because my brother tried to contact Shannon Fentiman about an issue he was having. So it was her as the Attorney General at the time. They just blocked him. They didn't want to talk about it.
My God.
And it wasn't this issue.
They're supposed to be talking to the public and working for us, aren't they?
Yeah, they don't seem to understand that. But yeah.
Yeah. No, it's more like, you know, it's like Russia, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is Australia becoming a bit like Russia?
Yeah. Yeah.
Russia's doing a better job of being Russia than us, so maybe we should just not do that.
God. Yeah, well, it's become very authoritarian. It's a dictatorship. So they just tell us how we're going to live our lives, and Shannon just wants to promote men and their fetishes.
Yep. And disabled men are happy and free and getting prostitutes. Well, disabled women are there, you know, just trying to get consent for who touches them.
Yeah.
But at least Bill Shorten has done the right thing now.
And he's the same one that, remember Sal Grover when she had her daughter at the end of 2022 or 2020? I can't remember, but anyway, and there were 2 hospitals that were using these new forms, birth certificate, and the Gold Coast Hospital was one of them. And Sal went to fill it out and it said birthing parent. And then put it out on social media, and there was this social media frenzy over this.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a minister work so quickly. Within one day, he got down.
So it can be done. It can be done like that. It can all be changed overnight.
He's actually very good, I think, and he wouldn't be very popular with what he has been doing, because this NDIS with the use of prostitutes on the taxpayer, that's another woke thing, you know, this therapy. So he stands up to them.
Yeah.
It's so good to see a Labor minister that does this sort of thing, but he must cop shit behind the scenes for it. He must think, I don't give a damn what you do to me. Because it seems to be that with some men, when they go, I don't care if you cancel me, do whatever you want, I don't give a shit, they don't touch them.
Yeah, because they can't get anywhere with them. They won't get the apology they crave. Yeah.
Yeah. But no matter what woman does it, that's it, they're completely cancelled.
Well, Women's Action Alliance has written Bill Shorten a nice letter thanking him for doing that. So that's nice of us. Yeah.
Thank him for the NDIS thing.
Yeah, for rolling back because it's been ongoing for a few years.
Yeah,
they've not just Women's Action Alliance, but other, you know, people who are concerned about prostitution.
Yeah, that's another thing Shannon loves.
Yes, and no one who's worked in prostitution, no, sorry. When you're a prostitute, right, I'm not saying this, I've never been a prostitute, you fight for your right to do it, right? But once you get out of it, you realise, look, I've just been reading some books. Every woman who's done it and escaped has realised how much it damaged them and destroyed their life, their community, their bodies, their relationships with others. And they always talk about the terrible things that were done to them. Yeah. And even if you're bought as a prostitute, if you get, you know, gagged and bound and raped and abused, it's okay. Like, they can get off because they paid for that.
Yeah. So wrong. Yet Shannon is a big promoter of sex work.
Yeah. And just think, like, workplace health and safety does not exist. You know, as a business owner, Sandro and I, we have to hop online and get workplace health and safety and follow certain rules. Like, they can't choose to not have bodily fluids landing on their face. They're not wearing safety goggles to prevent sperm going in their eyes when they have their face wanked on. Sorry. But, you know, it's not, they never get any protection. They're at risk of diseases and physical abuse, and yeah, it's disgusting.
But
But when
Shannon,
they're desperate for money, they're drug addicts, some of them, and they're like, I just want to do this because this is the only way I can make money. It's
yeah,
not.
they're desperate women, aren't they?
They're desperate women.
Yeah.
If you can
It's
do
just-
something better than that, you don't be a prostitute.
No, of course you don't. It's absolutely unthinkable that the Minister for Women would be for that,
Yeah, I
and
know.
also saying that men can be women.
It is incredible. Like, I remember when there was a photo of her and
Oh, yes.
saying sex work is real work or something. She was very proud that, you know, it was going to be legally recognised, and you think she doesn't give a shit about women.
No.
It's all about men.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how can it be legally recognised and not be subjected to the same, you know, workplace health and safety laws of every other job? What man is going to go to a prostitute who's wearing a hazmat suit?
They probably
Because
would.
really, if you're exposed to that many bodily fluids, right, in a hospital, and you know you didn't know if they had sexually transmitted disease, they're covered up, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Goodness me.
I can't believe this lie it is even a thing, that's this sex work is work.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre how that's become normalized.
But
Yeah.
she advocates for the worst type of men.
Yeah.
It's not the decent men of society that she advocates for.
Mm.
It's for the worst part of the worst men.
Yeah.
It's not the upstanding family man or anything like that.
That's right. And most men, so I did also mention to you that I went to see, what's her name? Freaking hell now. Amy Boyd, Minister for Corrections with Gail. Yeah, so, she actually at one point said that women have had men in their prison cells for so long, it's frozen.
No, Sue's just gone somewhere.
Yeah, so I got really distracted then. Already men in women's prisons. And I'm like, yes. And she said, prison officers have been in there. And I'm sitting, and there's two men on either side of her that were clearly working in corrections and were wearing prison officer outfit. And I should have said at the time, yes, but they're good, hardworking men who are protecting society and doing a job, who are employed. They're not criminals that are put in jail. But how insulting to those two men.
Yeah, I mean, there is obviously a difference. I think that the women who advocate for not even any male guards in women's prisons, though, I think they've got a point.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Well, there's so many, you hear about all the rapes by the male prison guards, like, as well.
Yeah. But by saying that, there's already men in women's prisons and it's fine, they're recognising that these men that pretended to be women are just men.
Mm.
How many men, though, have we seen that are up on charges and they then decide to transition?
Oh, most of them. As I'm sure every guy that's in corrections, I'm sure that transitions after they've been put in is not really trans.
Oh no, and there's evidence of men that have said they're women so they can go into the women's prison. They then leave the prison and go back to being a man. So that's being exploited, but they don't seem to care.
No.
Because it's gender fluid. So they just so happen the day they leave prison, they're back to being a man.
It's almost as if they know that men are superior and that men can control by threat of intimidation. And so let's just do that and get these women back in the box. And I know that sounds like conspiracy theory a bit, but it really feels as though they've made a decision to find a way to, as quickly as possible, destroy all the gains that feminism has made for
definitely
years. And the quickest way to do that is to deny there's a difference between men and women.
Yeah.
And then let men do what they do best.
Oppress women.
Yeah.
Those are the bad men. We've got to remember there's a lot of good men.
I've got a good man here.
And you two have got good men as partners.
We do.
We do.
And the good man, the one saying, no, I don't want to go into the women's toilet, said I don't need to go into the women's jail. That's gross.
Yeah. The majority of men are good men, but that minority of men is large in numbers. And we've also got to contend with the incels as well.
Yeah.
Who just hate women.
Yeah.
This has really fed into their hatred of women even more because it's given them the green light to be able to be aggressive.
Well, it's perfect for them. They can literally come out, scream at women like us who speak, and nothing happens to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just need to put a mask on, wear black, have a baseball bat with a flag on it. Yeah.
The blokes that come out and scream at us when we do our speakers' corners they're just so beta male, and they've just been given free rein to come and shout and scream at us.
The one good thing is when we do Speakers Corner and they carry on like that, it shows the public exactly what they are. And so, because we got another Speakers Corner next weekend.
Yep.
In a different location.
Yep.
So I bet that they'll follow us to that location.
Yeah, they will.
Would you think that if they knew what the public thought of them, because they do think they're untouchable and I don't know, who knows what goes through their heads? Do they know the truth that the public doesn't support this? Or are they in denial and really believe that the majority of the public support them? And the good thing about Speakers Corner is it highlights to the public whoever's been sitting on the fence, and once they see that behaviour, they're going, oh my God.
Mental illness is totally on display.
Yeah. Like that big man with the breasts that headed it, like he's this massive man.
A dangerous man.
Yeah.
Because he obviously uses women's spaces.
Yeah.
You know, he's shouting about his right to do so. So you know that wherever he goes in public life, he's using our spaces.
And the sad thing is, because like the Queensland government should have had an education campaign about men now being allowed unfettered into women's spaces. And so for women that don't really know what's going on and they see a man come into a female toilet, if they say something, they don't realise how dangerous these people are because they're unstable, is they're putting their lives at risk. There's going to be some unassuming woman that has no idea about this issue, because the Queensland government has not educated the public about this.
And these men don't hesitate to be violent and aggressive in public, in broad daylight. They will shout at you centimetres away from your face.
I think it's part of an education campaign to show society that if you try and speak up, we will get violent with you. And I think that's why so many people are afraid to speak up, because they don't, so many women I know who are like, oh, I'm just not going to talk about it because, they get angry. They get angry online. They come after me in my messages. People shout at me in the street. It's completely acceptable to them to do that. And no one
It's
says
like
no.
an
That
abusive relationship, isn't it? Like,
it
oh, I
is.
won't mention this because he's gonna get angry and he'll
Yes,
flare up.
it is. It is completely Darvo. It is.
Yeah,
They're using threats of suicide.
yeah.
They're using violence. They're changing the language and manipulating words. It's just like an abusive relationship.
Mm.
Bang, just like that.
Wow. Thanks for everything you do, Emma.
No, thank you too. I love chatting with you guys, and I'm in awe of what you've achieved in Brizzy. So thank you. I'm the hanger-on from Townsville, so it's just nice to be able to talk to the women who've got all the action in Brizzy. So thank you both so much.
Yeah. Well, we do our bit.
I keep getting thrown out all the time.
Yeah, I noticed that. I thought you were just being really still, but then I saw that you'd frozen.
Happened 3 times now.
God, they are listening to us, aren't they?
Well, yeah, something's going on.
So
Because
our next speakers corner is next Sunday, the 21st of
yes.
July, Redcliffe Place, Brisbane, at 12:30.
That'd be awesome.
All right, Emma, thank you for coming to chat.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. Thanks for being so brave,
Yeah.
sitting opposite that horrible woman.
Mm.
It's easy to be brave when you can't look them in the eye.
Was the air around her really cold? Because that's usually what.
What's so chilly in there? They get the aircon on in that big gymnasium. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, to get people out quickly.
Yes. And then, yes, they did. A lady came who was my escort, and she came and she grabbed me and she walked me straight out the door.
Really?
Gail following. She was very nice, and she's like, oh, excuse me, let me help you get out. Help. Yeah, she was very attentive, but I felt like I was being told, thank you for coming, goodbye.
Shannon probably had a button under the desk that she pushed so you get escorted out. This one.
Eject turf.
Yeah. Yeah. Blind earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy, crazy, crazy times.
Yes.
All right. See
Okay.
you then.
Okay, bye.
Bye.